Welcome to Mintel's Little Conversation podcast.
Welcome to Mintel's Little Conversation, where our experts bring you fresh ideas and new perspectives on how consumers eat, drink, shop, groom, and think. I'm Edward Bergen, global food and drink analyst, all-round foodie, and I'm a massive hummus fanatic, which everybody knows about. So, is everyone here feeling hungry?
Yes.
Yeah, always.
You're always
hungry.
If you're not feeling hungry now, and this is to our listeners, and you're on a morning or you're on an evening commute or you're on a lunch break or you're on an afternoon snooze and you're fancying a chocolate bar, we're about to revolutionize your dinner plans. Today's podcast, we're going to explore the foodie's dream, and we're all foodies here, so I'm already hungry. We're going to be asking our analysts from around the world, what's the next big cuisine? And I've got some good news and some bad news. Which news do you want first?
Bad.
Bad news.
This podcast isn't going to be about hummus, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys. But we've got the good news, and we've got some amazing analysts with us. We've got Ayisha, who's sitting here in London with me. Say hello, Ayisha.
Hello.
We've got Melanie in Chicago. Say hello, Melanie.
Hello.
There we go. And we've got Anna in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Say hello, Anna.
Hi.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to start with Ayisha. Just give a bit of an intro. Role who you are.
Hello, I'm Ayisha Koyenikan. I am a global food and drink analyst here in the London team, and I am generally just a fanatic of food.
And Anna next. Hello, Ayisha. Anna next.
Hi, I'm Paula Gilsogamo from São Paulo, Brazil. I work at São Paulo at the Brazilian reports team, and I think I'm just always hungry and always looking for new food and enjoying food.
Awesome. I know the next person's always hungry. Melanie.
You should hear what all the colleagues say around me. I'm always looking for that next snack. So I'm Melanie Zanoza Bartelme. I'm here in the Chicago office. I'm a global food analyst, and I'm always thinking about my next meal. So it's always on my mind.
Awesome. Okay. You guys have got a bit of an idea of the format, but I thought I'm going to fill you in, and also our listeners. This is all new for you. So the format today, each of you have brought a cuisine to pitch to us. And the whole idea of this is that we want you to bring a cuisine that you feel is untapped, both in your markets and also beyond. So we feel that it has a lot more to give to the world with dishes and snacks and all these sorts of things. So what we want to do is we're going to discuss them. Each of you are going to have about your 7 minutes-ish to talk about your cuisine. And Melanie, you're up first.
All right, no pressure. All right, so I'm going to talk about a cuisine that we have been thinking a lot about. It's something that our other colleague here in the Chicago office, Amanda Topper, and I identified in our 2019 flavor and ingredient trends. So what I'm going to talk about is Indian food.
Indian food.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know that Indian food is something that we all are to some degree familiar with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I had a little bit of a feeling you guys might have some thoughts about this, but
Okay.
hear me out. Okay, so one of the things that Amanda and I really looked at in this report was how consumers are getting more and more curious about learning more about the places that they're going, about all the things they're eating. They want to know about the specifics. So we're really seeing this opportunity across a lot of different cuisines to kind of go deeper, to give consumers more of that more nuanced experience. And one of the cuisines that we really think that there's just so much potential for, especially in the US, is Indian. So this is something that everybody probably knows, a corner Indian restaurant. They've had their tikka masala, but it's something that we've generally seen be sort of a monolithic sort of thing. You think about Indian sort of as a concept, but the thing that we're really starting to see is that there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of people out there creating some really good food that's built around more specific regional cuisine. So this is something that in the US, most of the Indian food that you think of is Northern Indian. So this is kind of also why you see it being served with naan. Naan is made from wheat, and the north of India has a lot of wheat-based breads and ingredients. But
will it say I'm stopping you.
No.
Will it say in America that it is Northern Indian in an average Indian restaurant? Will it just say
No.
Indian? Okay.
I do not think so. And I mean, I always love to be proven wrong. I love for people to come back and say, oh no, my corner restaurant does that. But I think generally there isn't this pervasive knowledge around what types of dishes make up which types of parts of the cuisine, and from which regions. So this is something, though, that we are starting to see kind of start to play out, and we're seeing some more development around some state-specific cuisines. So have you guys heard of the state of Kerala?
Yep.
Yeah. So Kerala food is something that we're really starting to see a lot of interest in, a little bit of activity around. We just got this really great food hall here in Chicago called Paula Row. So there's this restaurant called Datu, which I am probably mispronouncing. I'm very sorry. But it is all Kerala food. So they have Kerala fried chicken.
So just describe to our listeners who won't know what Kerala food is.
Yeah, so one of the things about it is that it's really this universally flavorful kind of cuisine. It's on the coast, so there's a lot of seafood. It's actually a cuisine that includes a lot of meat, which some Indian restaurants and some Indian regions don't eat a lot of meat. So this is something that is also got a lot of different kinds of flavors, so a lot of different kind of spices. It's something that really offers a lot for any kind of Indian food consumer, whether it's somebody who's, has a lot of familiarity with the Indian food that they already know, but also something like fried chicken. No matter what cuisine type it is, fried chicken in the U.S. is something that is really ubiquitous. It's something that's, a really good sort of entry point. And that's also something that's really interesting. We have been seeing Indian dishes growing both at Indian restaurants. So there's more Indian restaurants and more Indian dishes overall, but we're also seeing Indian dishes grow at non-Indian restaurants, according to Mintel's Menu Insights tool. So we're tracking all the menu introductions. So that is telling me that consumers are going to be out there getting exposed to Indian flavors by chefs across cuisines. So they're going to be running out into this, whether they're actually going and specifically seeking out Indian food. So they're going to start to see more of this overall as well.
So we're seeing a mixture of some restaurants being authentic.
Yeah.
And we have other restaurants being totally inauthentic. It's about fusion. It's about just an international.
And I think, too, what it really is about really creating this space for these chefs and these, I think, some retail brands as well, to open up that space for their personal story and their personal experience to come through. There's one restaurant, I'm actually going to be headed out there, check this out this week, but it has a butter chicken, which is something that's already sort of a fusion food because it's something that was created not in India. It was created, I believe, in the UK. And so, but they're taking that and then they're wrapping it up in a calzone. So that's something that feels like right in line with our whole Chicago, deep dish kind of thing. But, there's a lot of interpretation. There's a lot of exploration. So it's really cool to see all of the different kinds of ways this is starting to play out. And I think that there's just still a lot more that people are going to be doing with it.
So I'm going to just shift the focus a bit. I'm going to go to you, Anna, because I'm wondering, and this is my I don't know dramatic amounts about the Brazilian market. Does Indian have a role?
Here in Brazil, we don't have this Indian influence. We don't have much immigration from India. So we can see one another restaurants in the capitals, but it's like, it's not that, I don't think that people are really familiar with chicken masala, for example, here. So it's not a cuisine that's have a lot of space here now. And I don't know if this can grow or not, but I saw here in São Paulo, it's hard to talk about Brazil because it's huge, so I think I can talk more about São Paulo. And we see maybe an opportunity as a vegetarian option here. So we have some restaurants that are more focused on vegan or vegetarian options and are based on Indian cuisine. So maybe this can be an approach here.
So you'd use the vegan and plant-based trend to let it play.
Yes, and how we are seeing people trying to eat a little bit of less meat here. Our culinary is very focused on meat, and but we saw this. We saw people trying to eat a little bit less meat, so maybe this can be an approach, maybe this can be an opportunity too, but I think we maybe need a chicken masala iconic dish here to make this more attractive for our consumers, but it's not something that is not even closer to be very having a great present here. So I think maybe this vegan or vegetarian approach could be a way to get this consumer.
I read some data a few years ago, which I found very interesting, looking at why. So I'm always going to come with a bit of a devil's advocate to you, because we want to pick a winner here. And Ayisha and I are sitting in the UK, and look, I've been eating Indian since, as you know, we brought up in the north of England. We've got Indian curry houses on every street, and we're not talking basic Indian. We're talking very authentic, very regionalized dishes. I read some data, and I read it in the States, that in the UK, if you want a go-to spicy dish, you'd go Indian. But actually, the Mexican has the same role as that spicy dish in the United States because of its immigration, and therefore there's only one place in the week for a spicy meal, and consumers use their Indian in the UK or their Mexican in the US for that reason. So just challenging you on that. Is there a big, I know that there's growth, but actually is there going to be enough growth, or is it always going to be Mexican just being in charge?
You know, it's funny you say that, because I'm kind of thinking about how, you know, you're saying there's a curry house in every corner, and for us, there's, in Chicago especially, there's a ton of, burrito places and a whole range of different kind of Mexican food, but kind of until recently, at least in Chicago, when you wanted to go get Indian food, you had to go to the Indian neighborhood. So for us, this is off of a street called Devon. And what I think is really kind of indicating that there is a lot of growth here is that you're starting to find this not just in sort of neighborhood places where a bunch of people who are Indian might be eating it, day to day, but I think that we're seeing an influx of fine dining Indian restaurants. There's a restaurant that started in San Francisco called Rue. We just got our first location of that in Chicago in the West Loop, which is a very trendy, very foodie area. And we're just seeing more and more of this happening, and happening at a very high level. So I think there's going to be a lot of attention to it. And and I think what's interesting too is I don't think necessarily Indian is something that we all think of as spicy here. I think that there is definitely spicy. I have some trouble sometimes, but it's something I think that there's a lot of variation on. So,
okay. We want to go to the next cuisine. We're going to keep talking about them. I want you to do 10 seconds. Indian cuisine. Why do you think there's an untapped opportunity? Go.
Oh, this is pressure. Okay, so I think that there is an untapped potential for Indian cuisine because consumers are traveling the world. Consumers are eating more. They want to know more. They want to go deeper into these cuisines. Indian has been relatively untapped. However, we are seeing a ton of Indian happening a little bit in the snack and sauces categories. So there's already some exposure there. So all of these kind of factors together are making it a risk-free sort of easy way to kind of get into it.
3, 2, 1. Okay. So
breathing.
We might get back to Indian again. We will, because we're going to get to it at the end. But I want to go to Anna. And you told us what you were going to be talking about, but I'm actually really fascinated by this in your market. So can you tell us your cuisine, but also tell us a bit about why you think it's got an untapped opportunity as well in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, and what you really think is going to work with consumers?
Okay, can be a little bit surprised because I choose Korean cuisine. So I don't know if when someone thinks in Brazil, we'll be thinking about an Asian cuisine come and being more popular here. But we have, especially here in São Paulo, some other areas, some other regions, many immigrants from Asia, especially from Japan, China, and South Korea. So, we've been seeing this Korean expansion, especially here in São Paulo, but I talked with some friends of mine in other capitals, and we can see these too in other regions. And I think this is interesting because, as Melanie said before, we could find some of Korean restaurants in a neighborhood here that we have many immigrants, Korean immigrants, but now we can find more. For example, in 1 month, I had food on this neighborhood here that is where we can find very traditional dishes and very traditional restaurants. Many times that all the menu and all people just speaking in Korean and don't have even translated in Portuguese. And we also have this K-pop chicken chain that is a more fast food version of this, and they are growing, like having more here in São Paulo, having more units in different neighborhoods. So this is coming to other places. And also I went to Coma, that is a contemporary Korean restaurant here in Brazil. The chef is a son of a Korean family from immigrants. So we are seeing like this in many different types. And also here we have, especially in São Paulo, but also in other cities too, the K-pop and the Korean culture very strong. So I think this movement to understand and be interested in Korean culture can also start to be more present in the cuisine too. And also we can, the Korean cuisine also have a very good fried chicken option. Yes. So maybe for US can be
universal.
Yes, it's universal. And we have, they have like this bibimbap dish
with an egg inside.
Yes, it's like with rice at the base and some vegetables, sometimes meat and the egg. And the rice, it's a very important base for Brazil dishes. So maybe it's also something to help people to see this as a really meal, like more closer to they are used to have. So, and we also here in Brazil have many different dishes with that is a mix of many ingredients. So we have rice, we have vegetables, we have different types of meat. So maybe this is similarity too. Let me see if I have any more things to win this fight.
What I might do as well, because I think it's interesting, and I've been to a few Koreans myself quite recently. I went to a really good place called Jinju in Soho, London. But I think Ayisha's been to a few herself. So what's your feeling of it from a European London point of view?
So I think there's a lot of interest in certainly in London around Korean food. It's kind of spicy, it's sweet, so those flavor profiles really suit the UK palate for sure. And also the interest in digestive health and fermented food fits really nicely because of, you've got your kimchi, you've got your gochujang, so it hits on many different levels. I think the other thing with Korean food, so like you were saying, Anna, you can go the very traditional route, which is great, but you can also have this whole fusion. So, your Korean fried chicken, or we're seeing things like bulgogi pizzas and all sorts of crazy things that we're seeing over here. So it has,
what is a bulgogi pizza?
So it's so bulgogi is like a sweet and spicy marinated meat. And so we're seeing that on pizzas and all kinds of like really interesting things happening with mashups of different.
So all fusion
concepts.
to make us be able to try it. When we look at our data, consumers get so afraid to sort of jump in, and it's helping them be more adventurous.
The fusion, we're definitely seeing interest in that in the US too. And it's funny because the way we ask it, we're asking specifically about Korean tacos being, that sort of fusion food, sort of an established. It's like maybe what US consumers think of when they think of that first.
Okay. Anna, we're going to go back to your final pitch, because we might get back to this one again. So you've got, well, I think Melanie took a few liberties, but you've got ideally 10 seconds that's the idea. I'm not going to make it easy. 10 seconds, Korean, Brazil and beyond, go.
So I think it's the Korean culture having more space around the world. So I think this is important too, because people get interested in all the cultural topics, and food, it's definitely one huge part of a culture of a country. So, and also you can use like parts, as Ayisha said, parts of these dishes like bulgogi meat and prepare like sandwiches or other stuff. Here in Brazil, we don't, in many of the regions, we don't eat that much spicy food, as maybe surprised that it sounds, but we have like all these other different possibilities to fusion foods, and we have this Asian culture very, very strong here. We have we had like this Japanese wave food a long time ago.
Getting into Japanese now, you're going to be going in Asian. I'm just going to cut you off.
Okay,
I think I'm being naughty.
She's absolutely gives you no leeway here.
I'm not the easy one. I love that. That was a really interesting conversation, especially when we're getting into some of these other dishes. We've got one more that actually, from my point of view, when I'm thinking about the food that I eat, is something that I think is quite new for the UK, and be interested to see if it's new for other cultures too. So Ayisha, you're up.
Yes, well, thank you, Melanie and Anna, for warming up the audience, but I'm here to give you the winning cuisine.
Warming up.
Fighting word.
Coming out fighting. So I am here to advocate for Caribbean food. Now, this is not just because I am of Caribbean descent, although that does make me quite passionate. There's a raft of reasons why I think Caribbean food, certainly here in the UK, is both under and misrepresented, and I think there's a load of scope for more to be done with it. So firstly, I think the face of Caribbean food here in the UK is very much Jamaican. So it's all about jerk chicken and rum. It's all about adding some mango and some coconut to something and calling it exotic. And there's just so much more. There's so much more to the Caribbean region, to the Caribbean islands than that. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface. There's been quite a few, I won't say scandals, but there's been some backlash against chefs creating their own versions or interpretations.
Name those chefs, Ayisha.
Okay, so we had Marco Pierre White a few years ago as part of his Knorr campaign. He created authentic, and I'm using inverted commas, authentic rice and peas with chicken. And then good old Jamie Oliver, tried to create some jerk rice recently and got royally smashed in the media for that, and got a lot of backlash against that. So I think there are opportunities for Caribbean cuisine to grow via exploration of the nuances between the different islands. So the Caribbean, the cuisine was very much formed by the indigenous people, but then the waves of colonization and obviously slavery, and that has shaped the different islands, and they all have a very different flavor. We have French influence, Dutch, British, Indian, all sorts of different influences there, and I think there's just so much more to pull out. So consumers, especially here in the UK, they are very interested in trying authentic cuisines, and I think a deep dive into different islands. So, for example, it might be from Guyana. There's an Amerindian derived dish called pepper pot stew. So that's stewed meats in cinnamon and cassareep. So cassareep is derived from cassava. So that's a really richly spiced meaty stew there. And then, for example, in Trinidad, there's a lot of Indian influences. So after slavery was abolished, there was a wave of indentured workers from India that came in and worked in Trinidad, bringing their own foods with them. So you have dishes like chana and doubles. Doubles are like fried flatbreads with chutney and relish and hot pepper in there. And then you have obviously the African influence from the slaves that were brought into these islands. So in Barbados, you'll find a dish called kuku, which is a polenta cooked with okra. So very traditional, like West African ingredients and brought over by slaves. So I think there's loads to explore there. And actually, if you look at Caribbean cuisine, it very much falls in line with current food trends. So things like plant-based, we're all talking about plant-based food. Nobody can get enough of plant-based food at the moment. Well, Caribbean cuisine was born from adversity. So pretty much Caribbean people had to eat what they could grow. So we're talking yams and plantains, beans, greens, that sort of thing. And the link to Rastafarianism as well. So Rastafarianism is all about eating ital food, which is raw, which is organic, vegetarian and unprocessed, very much in line with, the vegan movement at the moment. Using coconut milk instead of dairy, for example, just adding another level to the vegan discussion, I think. And there's loads that could be done around that.
I'm going to just challenge you once because I know I've talked to you about Caribbean food before, and you could just talk for a long time.
Thanks.
Do you think, and this is the big challenge, that actually consumers are ready for it? And the reason I ask it is because at the moment, like in the UK, we've got Levi Roots, who was in Dragon's Den, one of these programs where you pitch your business, and he's probably for a lot of people the face of Caribbean food. He's got his jerk chicken brand, and you'll probably go after him. And are they ready to go into these new areas, or actually just getting a jerk chicken in front of somebody is enough for the consumer at the moment?
So I feel like jerk chicken has been around for ages. So we've had the Notting Hill Carnival, I think it's the biggest carnival in Europe here, and jerk chicken is on every corner. I think people are quite familiar with that. I think people are definitely ready to take a deeper dive. So it's interesting, Melanie, listening to you talk about Indian cuisine, and obviously here in the UK, Indian cuisine is much more well established than it is in the States. But back in the day, Indian cuisine was, interestingly enough, made by Bangladeshis in this country, and there was no distinguishment between Bangladesh cuisine, Indian cuisine, Pakistan cuisine. Now we have Goan cuisine, we have Sri Lankan cuisine. It's very regional, and it's very focused and very authentic. And there's no reason why the same thing cannot happen with Caribbean cuisine. And we're starting to see a sort of a fast casual restaurant level and a few finer dining restaurants as well that are very much in that lane. So we have places that are like the London's West Indian Bake Company. So they're serving up products from Grenada. Or we have Lyman, like a Trinidadian food pop up in Spitalfields here in London. So we're starting to see it come through.
Okay, so what I want to do is let the other guys explore it a bit. So Anna, in Brazil, is it something that is there any immigration, or is there something that you've seen already, or is this another new cuisine for your market?
We don't have this much immigration from Caribbean here, and I don't remember to see restaurants focused on Caribbean here. As I saw, as Ayisha said, I saw maybe some Jamaica bar, or more specific for Jamaica food from Jamaica, and but I think that could be an opportunity because we use maybe many ingredients in our cuisine, our preparation of food here in Brazil, but also maybe this can be a disadvantage because maybe we don't see an iconic dish to make this more excited and more like getting people to know more about this cuisine and to want to try this food. So because we already have many dishes that also have this immigration along the years, inflation. So the African from slavery and etc. So maybe it's will be good to have this more here, because it will be good to know, to have this I don't know, I forgot the word, but to have this connection,
Okay.
This connection more with this culture, and also we could have the ingredients to do this in a proper way. But I don't think we have many immigrants and many representatives from this culture to
a tough place to start.
Yes.
Melanie, you must have populations of Caribbean communities already there. But again, and I don't know if it's the same challenge, and I don't want to sound like I'm like not stereotyping, but cuisine, like again Mexican, which is so established, and some of those cuisines, and also you're exploring Asia. Is there an opportunity for Caribbean cuisine? Is it using the same ingredients as maybe South America?
So Ed, I think you're going to love me here, because I found a way to bring Mediterranean food in here. So there's a restaurant here in Chicago called Sierra, and what I really like about it is it's calling itself a modern Mediterranean restaurant, but all of the dishes on the menu, they call out that this one is from this specific place. So this might be Syrian, this might be Israeli. So it really feels like there's an opportunity, both in, I would say, fine dining restaurants like that, as well as fast casuals, to have that opportunity to say, look, there's a lot of things here that are all maybe a little bit related, but you can call out what those origins are, what that actual story is, to give kind of a little bit more context around it. It's something that there's a place that's opening up, it may be open now, in New York, where it's looking at rice from a lot of different kinds of uses, different cultures. So kind of taking that, centering around one ingredient, and then being able to tell the story of a couple of different things through that. I mean, I think that we do have Jamaican food here. We've got Caribbean food, but I don't think anybody, I mean, and I really do hope that we hear from people who say, no, you're wrong. I know about this place because I would like to look at it. That there are these places.
You'd go and eat there.
These opportunities. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll be there. You know, I am hungry. So to be able to explore this more, because this is something, and I'm not saying that Ayisha is going to win here for this, but it is something that I also feel like there's a huge opportunity for in the US. So definitely on board.
Okay, Ayisha, you've got your 10 seconds. Shoot.
I think Caribbean cuisine is the way forward because it taps into current consumer trends such as nose-to-tail eating and sustainability. Everything from salted fish to salted pig's tails and tripe is utilized really well in Caribbean cooking. There's loads of plant-based meals, beans, and loads of plant-based protein. So that should definitely tap into consumer sentiment as well. There are loads of products that have heat, which a lot of markets are looking for more heat. So we use a lot of Scotch bonnet, loads of flavor, loads of taste. So yeah, I think there are loads of reasons why West Indian food needs to evolve past jerk chicken, and let's start exploring some of these beautiful islands.
Right.
And then let's go there.
And let's go there.
Try and get Mintel to send us. I kind of don't want to pick a winner. Do any of you, I know if you were going to pick not your own cuisine, and I don't know which one it is, this might be a really, really silly question to ask. Is the one that really is speaking to you, or from the other two that you've heard of? Anna, is the one that speaks to you?
I think that Caribbean cuisine speaks more to me, but I think
Ayisha's dancing.
But I think that maybe now Indian will have more opportunity in Brazil.
Okay. Oh, so preemptive dancing.
I make a game here,
Melanie.
Okay, so I'm saying this. Okay, so I think that Korean is still something really great to be calling out, because it's something in the US that we're seeing evolve, and we're seeing kind of more moving beyond some of the, maybe I'm going to air quote, what did you call that, Ayisha? You said inverted commas.
Commas, yeah.
Oh, I love talking to you guys. So I'm going to say that I lost my train of thought here. I got too excited.
I'm going to say that Caribbean food is the winner.
Oh, is that what I'm saying? So Korean food, we're kind of moving past maybe some of those entry level type things. So we're going to get a little bit deeper. That's kind of my whole, take here, is that there's still lots of room within all of these cuisines to go more regional, to go more specific. So I'm going to say we're all winners.
You're all winners.
But I
quite like gochujang.
Fried chicken, fried chicken.
Absolutely,
I'm
American
going to
staple.
say that I think that even though there's still a lot of opportunity for Korean to continue to expand, I'm really excited about the Caribbean. I mean, Ayisha, I think I got to give it to you, because I just think that there's just really so much that has not happened yet, that there's so much excitement, there's so much that really could be done.
So by definition of untapped, and while I've been having quite a lot of gochujang cauliflower in various places that I'm really enjoying in Korean food, with little pieces of fermented, like cubes of vegetables, which taste unbelievable. I feel like the Caribbean trend, and I think we used the word when we prepared for this, has been cliched. Am I right, Ayisha?
Yeah.
And there's this massive opportunity to open that out, to explore different cuisines and flavors, and you could do so much more with the dishes that are there. The fact that you'd struggle to ask the average consumer past jerk chicken and like a pineapple cocktail, what they think about Caribbean food, or like where would they go with it. I feel like because that's probably the end of their list of Caribbean foods, that there's clearly this white space opportunity. I love Korean and I eat Indian all the time, so this was a great podcast for us. But I think that the Caribbean cuisine feels more untapped.
Yes, I think so.
There's just nothing about at the moment. Guys, that's the end, which is really sad. I think we thoroughly loved it, and I'm going to actually raise this now, because one thing we got to talking about before when we were preparing for the podcast, is actually getting into some of those cliches about cuisine. We started talking about fusion. There's so many more places for cuisine to go. So I think that you guys might be called upon over the next 12 months, over the next couple of years, on these Mintel Little Conversation podcasts, to explore those other topics related to cuisine. We also didn't really touch on those cuisines in retail too much, like in snacking, in ready meals, all those categories that we love.
Yes.
We just talked about them as in that sort of big way. So I think there's so many more places we can take this, which is great, because that means there's more for next time. So thank you very much. I'm just going to I just want to say a big thank you to our listeners. So our listeners, please subscribe, please rate, please review, especially if you're on an Apple device. You can easily review. Please give it 5 stars, lovely reviews, or you can get it on any of the platforms. We haven't been around for too long. I think this is probably in our first this might be our 11th or 12th episode. So spread the word, and please catch another podcast next week on Mintel's Little Conversation. Jump on Mintel.com if you want to know more about Mintel. We're on social media. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're really hip and trendy and cool now. And also we've got our blog, which is epic. So to get a lot more insights from our wonderful analysts. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.